And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Shaping Success. I'm your host, Wes Tankersley. Hopefully this is going off without a hitch, but it's been an interesting time. So this first episode back for about, 3-4 weeks that I've done one. Robert Watson and I normally do this at 5 o'clock in the morning every Monday. And it's Monday, and Robert had some stuff going on, and I'd been moving. So there's been a lot of things that have been happening in my life that have kind of made it a little bit tricky and tough to record an episode. But yesterday, I finally got everything squared away. So a little update on what's going on, what is to come, what you will see, how we're going to do things. Nikki, what's going on? This is going to be a little bit of a solo episode, a little bit of update on my life, what's going on with me, and where things will be going from here. But Shaping Success is something that I have done for quite a while. I mean, it's been, since 2019, right before COVID started. So I started podcasting before COVID, like a lot of people who started podcasting after COVID because they didn't have anything to do. But I continued to keep on going. So many of the people that I know in the podcast community have dropped off and have no longer done a podcast because they just, they want fame. They want it to go quick. They want it to happen. They want things to automatically be whatever it is. And we've got well over 50,000 downloads, but there's some people who get 50,000 downloads an episode. And so it's kind of crazy, but I enjoy doing this. It's kind of an outlet. It's a good place to have a conversation. Robert and I have conversations. And recently I started doing Shaping Success Treasure Valley, which, is a great thing for me. And it's funny because as I was putting my studio together yesterday, I started going through some of the things that people have given me over time. And as you look behind me, it's like I'm running out of room. You can't really see it, but it's because it's all kind of fuzzed out or whatever. But, I like a lot of things. I like bourbon. I like the Giants. I like baseball. So I have my own stuff back here that I'm putting up. I have my pictures and things that go on the wall and all that. But I also have some great things. Yesterday, I got an awesome note from someone that I recently interviewed on Shaping Success Treasure Valley, Shane Davila. And it's funny. I have a hard time saying his name because he says Davila. And I had some friends in high school that were Davila. So it was pretty crazy, but I have a hard time saying his name right, but only because I've said it one way my whole life, and he has told me that it's said this way. So it's kind of crazy to get that. But anyway, he sent me an awesome thank you card yesterday, and it's a picture that he took. And I'm just sitting there looking at it, and I'm going, man, this is just a beautiful picture. Idaho is just a great place to live, and to get to interview those people. Tiffany Pincard was on, Joel Schneider, just so many great people that I'm getting to sit down with and get to know. And I know I named like 3 of you, but I've interviewed 18 people so far from the Treasure Valley. So it's been tough not to get to do that and I want to get back into that. But now that the studio is, somewhat set up, it's not perfect. I have to decide a lot of things, like how it's going to work, how I'm going to do it. And I think I've got it figured out. I think I'm going to be okay, but we still have to try and keep moving forward and make that adjustment. So I keep talking about setting up this new studio, and I don't know how many of you really know this, but I've talked about it before. I had to sell my previous home, which I actually built a studio in it. There was some things, just that didn't work out. When we bought the house, it was quite a bit more than what we thought it was going to be. And at the time when we first bought it, I didn't lose my job, but I bought it kind of under some false preferences. I don't even know what that is. Some false information. So we ended up in a house that was like way more expensive than what we could afford. And it was funny because nothing's real funny about it, but it was interesting because if we would have stayed in the house that we had before, probably would have been paid for by now. And it was much bigger than the house that we're living in right now. And it was cheaper than the house that we're living in right now because the way that the Idaho economy is, or not economy, the housing market is, it's insane how a certain house will cost this much now. Like the house that I owned that we bought, the previous home I lived with, right down the road, we paid $117,000 for it. Now it's a $400,000 house. So that's just insane. And that's within like 6 years. So it's insane to me how crazy the market is. The house that we currently bought right now probably, was a $150,000 house 10 years ago, and now it's a $400,000 house. That's just the way it is. So anyway, I bought that house under that. It was kind of nice. I had my own studio. I had all those things. I had my own place to record off the house. And so we just tried to figure out a way to make it work. I started my own business. I left that job, and it became kind of difficult to make ends meet with that. So recently I had to I didn't shut down the business, but my partner kept going, and he's doing the exterior stuff solely instead of doing interior and exterior, which is what we started out doing. Went back to work for someone else, selling window covering still, but for a different company. So what the point of that whole conversation is to let you know that no matter what happens, you can continue to move forward. You have to figure out a way to do it. I could have shut this whole thing down and just been done with this podcast, done with everything, but decided that I need to find a way to shift and make it different and make it work again. Now, one of the difficult things, and the reason why we haven't had an episode in the last 3 weeks, is we moved into this house 3 weeks ago. But when you go from a really big house to a house that's much smaller, you have to try and find a place to put all your stuff. And it's been pretty humbling. It's kind of like, well, you got too much stuff. We spent our whole life growing up, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, where as a kid, I didn't have everything I wanted, but I had enough. And I keep having this conversation with my wife because I think that what happens is we want to have more. We always want to have more, but we really have enough. And so we sit here and we try to keep getting more. I'm just as bad as this. Like there's things that you can tell that I really like and didn't have growing up. Like you go into my closet and you can see I probably have, 40 hats. Maybe 40, that's probably low. And I have lots of shoes. And it was funny because we used to get a hat for Christmas, and that was kind of the thing. It was like, oh man, I really love wearing a hat. I would wear lots of hats. I see a new Giants hat come out. I can afford it. I go and buy it. I couldn't afford Jordans when I was growing up. My parents, we had some Nikes, but we didn't have Jordans. And so what do you do when you get older? You grow, you got money, you buy them. And it was funny because when I was a PE teacher, I probably wore a different pair of shoes every single day because I would wear a polo and then I'd have a pair of shoes that matched those, which was either Jordans or, one of those types of shoes. And very unnecessary when your parents would buy you a pair of shoes at the beginning of the year before you started buying your own stuff. And then you'd wear them all year. That was your shoes for the year. That's what you would do until they wore out. Now I don't ever wear any shoes out except for the ones that I work in because I wear them most of the time every day. And a lot of times those shoes sit in the closet and don't get worn anymore because I don't teach PE. So is it necessary? Not really. And that's where my life is. It's like, what is necessary? What do you need? What don't you need? And what do we get to just appease ourselves because we missed out on something? And so the conversation I keep having is, do we have what we need? Do we have enough? And I think that that's the hardest part for anyone who, makes decent money, has enough, can do that. And then to have to go from, well, I'm not making as much as I did. Now I got to downsize a little bit. So it's all about priorities. What is important to you? What is going to work? And I think that that's one of the big things is learning to prioritize that stuff. And what I've found, is that there are so many things that can give you what you need, and it doesn't have to be physical things. But what I am noticing is that as I'm going through the stuff back here, that there are things that give me that feeling, that memory. They were all free. Most of the stuff back here was free. But you get that feeling from it. So like when I look at that picture, I'm like, oh man, I remember that time that I sat down with Shane. He was very awesome conversation, great interview, got to know someone, glean some information. And that's the same thing with every single other person that I've had on Shaping Success over the last few years. It's like they are typically people that I talk to, that I hear them say something, we have something in common. I'll DM them and then we'll talk, and they are literally the same person that I thought they were. And I get to learn some information about how someone did something, how someone built something, how someone got through something. And that's what I love, is the fact that I get to get that information and then I get to share it with all of you. And it's tough to sit back on the days when you don't get to do it, when you get so enthralled in it, like you love it, like you want to do it every single day. And that was the crazy thing, is like you're sitting here going, well, I don't have time to do this because I can't. I just don't. I don't have what I need to do this right now today. And so yesterday when I was putting this together, and I started on Friday, and then I did a little on Saturday, and then yesterday I got it pretty much set up. There's more things that I want to do with it. It's not perfect, but it's going to work. And it's just going to take time. That's all there is to it. But anything that is worth continuing or doing is going to take time. You're not going to get it the first time. And I think that that's what a lot of people get lost on. That's why when I'm sitting here looking at 500 episodes or however many episodes I have, I'm putting in the work. And Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Outliers, where he talks about 10,000 hours being the gold standard for being really good at something, right? Like being a professional, putting in the work. That doesn't mean that you're done at 10,000 hours, but it takes 10,000 hours to be proficient. And when you take that 500 and you multiply it by 30 minutes, it's a long way away from 10,000 hours. And once I get there, I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep trying. I'm just going to keep working at it. There's a lot of great people who help support that and help work through that. Robert being on the show is great. Nikki in the chat room right now helps put out those clips every single week that you guys see and helps promote the show with me. The YouTube work, she puts it into an Opus Clips, and it sends it out, and it puts it out in all these other places. And I basically am uploading and live recording right now to YouTube, to Facebook, to I think LinkedIn, where everyone can see this stuff. And all that background work, no one ever sees what's going on. They just see someone who, and they I don't know how many times I've heard, oh, you guys, you're killing it, man. You're killing it. And what the perception versus the reality is that it's not always that way. It's not always perfect. It's not always, like I said, 50,000 downloads is a lot. That's 50,000 people that I couldn't reach. And just by, standing outside and talking to people, that's a lot more people than I ever talked to. But there's a lot of people who are reaching more people. So I want to reach as many people as I can. I want to make as many changes in other people's lives as I can by helping them to see that it's not just them who have these goals and dreams and desires and don't know how to get there. And maybe one of those guests that I have helped or talked to can help you reach your potential. So remember, even though there are those trials and tribulations, it does not end what you are doing. You have to be willing to put the work in. And so it may not always be perfect. It may not always be exactly what you want, but you got to ask yourself, and this is funny because I was just thinking about this from, Timothy Olyphant said this in The Girl Next Door. He says, what you got to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? And it is. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Do you want that orange juice, that fresh squeezed orange juice from an orange, or do you want that Sunny D? So as you go throughout your day today, I want you to think about this. And this could be a little shorter episode, but I just wanted to give you guys an update on where it's at. Robert and I will be back next week. He had his son in town, and we were planning on going today, but he had his son in town. So he wanted to spend a little bit more time with him. And I had to go. I wanted to give you guys a little update. I wanted to make sure everything was going the way that it was supposed to. And, I'm going to tell you right now, for me, the juice is worth the squeeze. So get out there, squeeze those oranges today, get that juice. And until next time, I challenge you to find the shape of your success.